Good morning. So I just want to remind Erie County residents who are in the areas that are affected by the snow, so either just want to remind everybody to stay indoors, especially people who have heart problems, especially those who have high blood pressure or any type of medication for heart problems. Please stay indoors and please do not go outside and shovel your driveway. Just the added stress of the cold and exertion from shoveling can really trigger a heart attack or another cardiac event. So those individuals, please stay indoors and please do not shovel your driveway. There's really nowhere to go anyways. Also, if your kids do decide to go out, I know that there's many schools are closed today. Make sure they're dressed warmly. It is very, very cold outside and very, very snowy. Make sure that they have good boots on and good gloves or mitten on so they don't develop frostbite. And also, people who may have problems with electricity, that their power is out, and they do decide to turn on a generator, please be safe. Please make sure that the generator is outside the house. It should not be in the garage. It should not be in the basement. It should be a good 10, 15 feet away from the house. So please, you don't want to suffer carbon monoxide poisoning on top of everything else. So, a snowy day like today can be enjoyed. You can stay inside, play some games, board games, watch some good movies, but please, stay indoors, stay warm, and stay safe.
Thank you, Doc. We've not heard of any reports, or at least I've not received any recently, of power outages. We were a little worried because some of the trees still have their leaves on them, and we were afraid that if, like the October surprise storm of 2006, trees with leaves and heavy snow can bring down branches, which bring down power wires. We haven't heard of that, though there may be a sporadic power outage out there. So once again, if you are using a generator, please use it outside. Another thing that has been brought to our attention due to the sheer amount of snow that fell in a short period of time, if you have a gas furnace, you should check your gas furnace exit point, its vent point, to ensure that it is not being blocked by snow, because if that's the case, then carbon monoxide can back up into your system. So if you have a gas furnace and you have more than 2.5 to 3 feet of snow on the ground, you might want to go outside and check your furnace vent to ensure that it is not plugged. Meals on Wheels is not delivering in Erie County today. If you have a senior neighbor of yours, you might want to check on them to ensure that they've got a hot meal, because Meals on Wheels is not delivering today. I do not know what their plans are for tomorrow, but considering the storm is anticipated to continue for the remainder of today and early tomorrow, and looking at what we're dealing with on these roads, it's doubtful that even if Meals on Wheels is able to deliver in some areas, they're going to be able to deliver in others. So at this time, I just want to remind everybody that this is a significant winter event. We know how to handle snow. We've done it before, and we're doing it. There are plows are on the road clearing the roads that we can. And as I said, some of the hardest hit areas like Hamburg actually have the plows on the roads because thankfully in some ways there was so much snow people weren't on them. It was some of the areas that did not get as much snow initially where people were driving and now they're stuck. And since they've gotten stuck, since 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, they've had another foot of snow fall on their car, and it's not a good situation. So we're just telling people avoid it. Avoid it at all costs. Open up to questions at this point.
Can you go over the streets that are closed, the main streets that you want people to avoid?
Well, first off, we do know, of course, the Thruway is closed. Last I knew, Skyway was closed, 219, as well as the 400. The 190 in Buffalo was closed from the 290 to the 90, so those were closed. What we believe happened is because many of those roads were closed, people took alternative routes thinking they could skirt the storm by going down the alternative routes. As a result, what we're seeing is major arterial roads that go north, south, and east-west are blocked. As I said, let me repeat, Union Road, especially in West Seneca and Cheektowaga, Transit Road, West Seneca, Cheektowaga, Elma, Harlem, which of course ends at the city of Buffalo, so it's primarily in West Seneca and Cheektowaga, William and Clinton, once again, West Seneca and Cheektowaga, Lawson, Cheektowaga, Seneca Street, Lackawanna and West Seneca, going through Elma, Ridge Road in Lackawanna, Walden Avenue in Cheektowaga. These are the major arterials to get through the town of Cheektowaga, the town of West Seneca, to get to Elma, to get through Lackawanna, and they are all in terrible shape. I have to admit, I'm a little surprised that it happened in such a short period of time, because it seemed like everything was going so well, but we're going to have to deal with this.
Mark, what about the Sabres game tonight? Have you talked to Ted Black?
I've not talked to Ted Black, but considering I've issued a driving ban for an area that also includes First Niagara Center, I would hope that they don't.
For people who are watching right now, whose cars may be abandoned, stuck on one of these major roads, what do you want them to do? How can they help you?
Well, if they can identify where their car is, it would be helpful. What we're doing right now is working with tow truck operators to try to identify which cars we can take and where we can take them. The problem is we have to do it literally one car at a time. Take a car, plow out a little area, take the next car, plow out a little area. So it's not something that's going to be able to be done in a very short period of time, especially considering it's still snowing. It's still snowing in these areas. If people have abandoned vehicles, it's beneficial that they contact the local police department where the vehicle was abandoned, but there's no guarantee that the vehicle, if it is towed, will eventually be towed to a lot in that community. It may be towed elsewhere. Truthfully, in all likelihood, it will, because there's no lots that we can basically take it to in West Seneca and Cheektowaga. We may have to take it to somewhere in the city of Buffalo. Our goal is to move vehicles and just get them out of the way. If we have to tow them and move them totally out of where they're located, that will be a greater problem. Our first goal, as the Commissioner said, is to open up one of these mains. Get one of these mains open, then go to the next, then go to the next. There are a couple arterials that are, Genesee Street is not that bad. Broadway is not that bad, but that's not me saying go out there and drive on it. There's a driving ban in those areas right now. Those, thankfully, we still can get emergency personnel through. But unfortunately, these other roads, which are significant roads, are very choked.
If you have made it to work and conditions worsen and you want to go home, do you think, and you are within the area of the driving ban, do you want them to just stay at work?
I think it would be best for them to stay at work. I don't know how they're going to get out of some of these communities at this point. As I said, there were driving bans in almost every one of these communities effective as of approximately 5 o'clock this morning, so we were hoping that people wouldn't drive in them to begin with. That now that they did, they're in all likelihood going to be stuck where they are. I don't even know if they'll be able, if they can get in their car and drive it. Basically, what we've been told is that almost every one of these roads is impassable. We have emergency service and Department of Public Works personnel that are stuck. Plows are stuck on some of these roads because they can't go forward and now they can't go backward. So we have emergency service personnel that have been trying to report to the Emergency Operations Center and Department of Public Works folks all day, and truthfully, very few of them were actually able to get there because the roads are just so bad. And it started because of the snow, and then it became less an issue of the snow and us being able to plow it, because we were doing a pretty good job through the night. I've been up all night and was getting our status reports all the time, and while there were bad roads, it really started from the Hamburg Orchard Park area by Abbott Road, Clark Street, and we were telling people to avoid those. In a very short period of time, people avoided them, and we were able to plow them and get them back to, if not down to the pavement, to drivable, and it just percolated elsewhere.
What about the hospitals, Gail?
Different doctors, essential personnel at hospitals who are being turned away at some of the roads because of the different travel bans. Are they going to be allowed to pass and make it to, whether it be Children's, some of these other hospitals?
If they're trying to enter the snow ban, they're not going to be able to get through. It's as simple as that. They're not being turned away because we don't want them to go through. It's because they can't make it through. At this point, these roads are all blocked. If somebody is a doctor or nurse that lives in North Buffalo or Amherst or Clarence and works at Children's Hospital, please come down. If you work even at Mercy Hospital, you should be able to get through. If you work at St. Joe's, I don't think you're going to get there. So what's happening is they're not turning away personnel just to turn them away. They're turning them away because there's in all likelihood they're never going to get to where they're aiming to be. We have gotten the calls from Kaleida and Catholics to try to assist in that matter, and we are. But the biggest problem is where some of these people are coming from. If a doctor is trying to leave Elma to come to Children's, that doctor's just not going to get there because there's no way to get through Elma and West Seneca at this point other than driving all the way around and going through Genesee County, which it's myself. I think Pembroke and Darien also now have limited states of emergency as well. So you'd really have to drive to the 390 and go around the 90 because the 90's closed. And there's really no way of doing it unless you go all the way towards Rochester and backtrack going through by Main Street. I think that's the only way somebody who's in that Elma, Marilla area, which is tough enough as it is going to be able to get through.
You talk about all the stranded cars. We know state police tell us they're helping drivers on the thruway.
Mhm.
Are you aware of deputies and police officers assisting stranded motorists on some of these arterials you've mentioned?
Oh, yes, yes.
Any idea how many?
Hundreds. We've been told there are hundreds of vehicles stranded. Whether there's individuals in the vehicles is another story. According to Undersheriff Whipperman, as of about 7 o'clock turnover, they had registered over 100 calls from individuals stranded in their cars, and they were trying to respond to those. Captain Scott Petronic was trying to make it from his home in the Southtown to the Emergency Operations Center. He could not. He did contact us, and he said he saw hundreds of vehicles abandoned on his route, and he still couldn't get all the way down where he needed to.
Are you then recommending, with St. Joe's being under the snow ban, Mercy, Granby, are you recommending that emergency services be shifted like to another suburban or children or the other hospitals?
Right now, they're having difficulties in some of these communities just responding to ambulance calls because they can't get the ambulances down the street. If personnel is at the hospital, I certainly hope they stay there, but it's going to be tough to even get ambulances through some of these areas. I think the city of Buffalo was a little bit better than some of these areas. I was on the phone with the mayor, and he did agree that areas south of Clinton were bad, and that's why they put their limited state of emergency and ban for south of Clinton. We wanted to ensure that we had a buffer zone as well, so we could move emergency personnel if we needed to, and so we went up to Genesee. It's not good. It's just not good out there. And I certainly understand the issues that the hospital systems are dealing with, and we are in contact with them, and we will continue to be in contact with them. At this point, our number one responsibility is to try to open up these mains so we can actually get emergency personnel through. I think that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about stay off the road so the emergency personnel can drive on these roads. These roads are blocked, and we have to be able to clear out these roads just so we can get emergency personnel through them before we can even think about letting the public come through them themselves.
What about the airport? Did you talk to Jim Mickle?
I've not heard of anything bad at the, I think they had some slight delays, but the last I knew, the airport is open. It's kind of on that tertiary zone where it's just at the sort of the edge of the storm. It was sitting there. The description from the National Weather Service all night was the storm was sort of situated at the southern end of downtown to the airport and right across to Batavia. And it's my understanding that the airport was just on the southern edge of it, so they didn't get the 3 feet. They did get some snow, but they've been able to handle it, so flights, while a little bit delayed, are coming in. My worry is what happens with some of those passengers, especially those that may be attempting to travel to the south. And once again, if people are attempting to travel to Canada, it's going to be very difficult if we have Canadian passengers that are flying in and they want to fly and get back to Toronto, because as I know, the 190, the 90 is closed. It would be very difficult for them. They'd have to sort of work their way up to Niagara County and cross the Queenston-Lewiston Bridge. So if people are arriving at the airport and they hear this, I hope they'll just settle in for a while until we're able to ensure that they're able to get where they need to go.
How would you rate this on the Griffin scale?
We had a little fun with the Griffin scale in the last couple of days. This is pretty close to a 5. Actually, in the worst areas, it probably is. But more importantly, this is the sad part. There are other parts of the community that have no snow. It really is that localized. As I said, I live in North Buffalo, and I was watching it snow hard for about an hour and a half, and that was it. And then it just went south. I've only got 2 inches of snow. I've got staff here that are from Kenmore, and they have nothing on the ground. The pavement's bare. It's green grass. It's bad. It's bad in these areas. Simple as that.
You get a conference call they were telling us before you came in here. Do you have any information at all from the Thruway Authority for people watching about when some of the main roads may reopen?
Well, we do not have the exact information. We do know that they've been working hard. The biggest problem with the Thruway was a tractor trailer that actually went off and was sort of in the wrong direction, a major jackknife that took out both the east and westbound. And that's what caused the initial backup on the thruway was jackknifing of tractor trailers. The eastbound was moving slowly for a while, even if they weren't allowing anybody on it. The westbound was stuck. And as of, I can tell you, 9:30, I knew that they were still in the process of removing that tractor trailer. They may have done it by now. It does not necessarily mean that the thruway will be open. It just means then that the plows from the Thruway Authority will actually be able to go down and start clearing off the road. But even if they open up the thruway, the conditions are very treacherous in those areas.
We were down by the barracks, State Police Barracks, and near the 33, you could still see some people driving on the thruway. I know that's not an area that's necessarily majorly impacted, but do people still managing to get on the thruway? Any message to them?
Well, I would hope that they exercise lots of common sense, because if they're going to try to go anywhere south of the 400, they're not going anywhere. First off, the thruway is closed. They're not letting anybody through Lackawanna toll barriers. It's my understanding that some people have been on the thruway. Not all the gates, I guess, were down in some of these areas. Most of the gates are down to prohibit people from doing so. Everyone, all I can say is exercise caution. We were asking people yesterday to exercise caution, listen to the advice of the public officials. If a driving ban's been in place, follow the driving ban. Some people didn't, and now we're going to have to solve that issue.
Any water main breaks?
Not that I've heard of. Not that I've heard of. We are a little worried about the possibility of localized flooding, but that'll be a few days away because we've gotten so much snow in a short period of time. There's an anticipation of more snow on Thursday and Friday with a warm-up over on Saturday, so we are worried about some possibilities of localized flooding, but for right now that's not an issue. And we certainly don't have ice in the rivers or creeks to cause a problem. It would just be the draining of the water. Was just written on the board. I think it's been like this for some time now. The 90 is now closed from the Pennsylvania line to Henrietta. It was closed from Dunkirk to Henrietta for quite some time. Now they've extended that to the Pennsylvania line, which is not totally surprising because we're now starting to see the band slowly drift south. So I would expect the areas like Pomfret and so forth that were anticipated to get most of the snow initially is going to start getting it in Chautauqua County. So the PA line to Henrietta is closed. And I do know, according to the discussions from the DOT, that all truck traffic that was going to be entering New York State was going to be diverted to Interstate 86 in Pennsylvania. So it was requiring all truck traffic, if that was not going to stand still in Pennsylvania, to be diverted on Interstate 86 so that they would have to go basically 86 to the 390 to Rochester to get back on the thruway.
Are they diverting trucks at the Peace Bridge then?
They stopped trucks at the Peace Bridge. Last I knew, there was no traffic crossing the Peace Bridge. It was being stopped on the Canadian side. That was issued by NITEC earlier this morning.
No traffic mean cars and trucks?
Well, I guess you theoretically could see some cars crossing, and then in the city of Buffalo, but it's my understanding trucks were being told to park in the Canadian side because they would have nowhere to go once they crossed, because the 190 was closed and the 90 was closed. So the last I knew, trucks were still being parked there because the 90 is closed, or 190 is closed from the 290 to the 190. If by chance they open up the northern portion of the 190 to the 290, maybe they'll let trucks go, but then again, if they get on the 290 and try to get around the city, they're going to hit the thruway, which is closed anyway. So I think they'll be closed for a while.
Same thing with Lewis and Queenston, or you don't know?
Lewis and Queenston is open, to my knowledge. And they were directing traffic that needed to go to Lewis and Queenston, though, as I said, if you're going to try to get on the thruway, you're not going to get anywhere. Eventually, you're going to be stuck. All right, everyone, thank you. We'll have an update.
Listening there to a live news conference, fairly lengthy news conference from County Executive Mark Poloncarz and other leaders here in Erie County talking about this now limited state of emergency in effect.